Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe, and we have a very special guest with us tonight.
Hey, I'm JJ Castillo.
JJ Castillo is here.
Is your last name really Stoner?
Yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
That's crazy.
He does not do drugs, though.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Never done them.
JJ Castillo, you work for the VR company Viewer Ready.
That's right. Well, it is my company. So
Right.
So you work
I work for myself.
So working from home is okay for
Yeah,
you
the big
right
plan is, as long as my whole goal was just to get a job at a company that I can't get fired at.
Oh, yeah,
So
dude.
I made my own company. So we've been around since 2015. And I want to thank you guys for having me on. I look like I'm an extra in Maverick.
We're very prepared for
yeah, I
coronavirus.
literally
here.
have like a, what do you call it? A bandit bandana on. I'm wearing some gloves. I'm going to rob all you guys.
You're ready to steal our guzzling and ready to visit the bullet farm.
Yeah, that's correct.
These are crazy times. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
You don't know us that well, so.
Well, yeah. Mostly,
We've all got our mouths right up
Right,
on these
right,
mics.
right.
So.
Well, my birthday is this weekend, so I'm trying my best to not be like in a bed shitting myself on
Hell
my
yeah.
birthday.
Hell yeah.
Well, you're here to talk about VR, virtual reality, and
Correct.
we're going to kind of talk about the state of VR, kind of a broad strokes, but also would love to hear about your experience in it
Sure.
and all that. It's been a crazy week. Everybody doing okay? We all surviving?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Worked from home today for the first time since I started this job. It was just mostly me figuring out how to work from
Yeah,
home.
right. I did a
But
little
I think
bit of that.
I think we did okay.
I feel like I'm a teenager again because everyone is on instant messenger all the time.
You're firing up the aim.
That's
Yeah, dude, we
Add
need
me-
to bring back away messages. You know?
Yeah.
So before we get into the news, just a couple quick shout outs from people that responded to our last episode. Chris McKeever responded that he also enjoys Fog of Love, which you mentioned as a board
the
game.
tabletop game.
It's so good.
Yeah.
He said it's almost made him cry. I think something like that.
Well, Star Fox 64 made me cry, so step it up, bitch.
Chaz from Shelley, who is the other half of Two Kids in a Big Coat, commented about he just started playing Dark Souls because we were talking about difficulty on our last episode. So that's the difficult game. Good luck, Chaz. Austin Young respectfully disagreed with my take on Fire Emblem Three Houses about the difficulty stuff. And I will talk to you about that later, Austin.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with Austin's respectful disagreement.
Austin and I are also planning to do another episode of our podcast, Optimal Pairing, on the DLC. So we will respectfully discuss that later.
When's the last time you guys did an episode of Optimal Pairing?
When we beat the game
Right.
for the first time, but now that I'm about to beat that DLC, I'll tell you more about it later.
Yeah,
We're going to talk about it more sometime.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to give a little shout out to Father Deerhands on Instagram. The last 2 weeks, he's been sharing our episodes on his Insta stories and seems to be a pretty big fan. So thanks a lot for the love, Father Deerhands. Here's a shout out for you. I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, Father Deerhands.
Thank you, Father Dear.
Father Deerhands.
What does it mean?
Well, he used to be Mr. I fucked it up.
You ruined it.
He used to be Mr. Deerhands.
Mr. Father Deerhands is my father.
Listen, he was Mr. Deerhands, and then he went, and now he's abstinent and works for the clergy, and now he's Father Deerhands.
I
And
get it.
I
I
commend
get it.
him for it.
Amen. I have another shout out I want to say to a local comedian from Baby Lion Studios, Adam Protexter.
Yeah.
Who put out a list of people that are streaming or making podcasts of Austin-based content creators.
Mhm.
We'll put a link on our Facebook group and our social media, but I just want to give it a shout out to Adam.
Yeah, that was a really
Stuff
cool
he's
thing to
doing.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Baby Lion Studios does a lot of gaming content too. We should have him on sometime.
Yeah, he has a series called Rappers Play Games.
Yeah.
They play like old games.
Worth checking out over the next 10 months of quarantine or whatever we're going to have to deal with.
If you too want to be mentioned on this podcast, send us a note, shout us out somewhere. We'll holler back at you. Share the podcast with your friends, all that stuff. We love you. Thanks for listening. And now we're going to get into the news for the week.
Yeah.
So obviously we are dealing with an unprecedented time. We've got the coronavirus, COVID-19, shit's crazy.
Totally.
Everybody's life is upended, and it seems like it's going to get worse. But we can talk about that broadly as we go through the list of gaming specific things that are happening too.
Yeah, it's like not only affecting gaming. It's just we are a gaming podcast. But
here are the big ones recently. E3 was canceled. We were kind of speculating about that last time. Well, they've done it. There's like this huge list somebody put together of esports is affected greatly. Like all the Overwatch League stuff, all kinds of esports things have been canceled. Apex Legends events, you name it. If it was esports, it's gone. A lot of Pokemon stuff, Smash Ultimate stuff to keep it here. TwitchCon, Amsterdam,
the Smash
everything.
World Tour that was like going to be the thing taking off this year, and that's a real shame.
Canceled one or two of those. And Nintendo put out a little response to E3 cancellation, like a little press release, which was nice because they're supportive of the ESA. So they're being nice about it. Also in the Sakurai's next Famitsu column, which leaked early like it always does, he indicates apparently that the next Smash Ultimate Fighter or one of the next Smash Ultimate Fighters are potentially going to be delayed because they were going to meet with publishers, and then also just they're having a hard time all being in the office and working on it.
Like they're basically prepping for hopefully not, but the inevitability of somebody coming down sick at the office and then just everything having to shut down basically. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I imagine right now, like even people that are still working full-time jobs, like aren't getting that much done anyway. You know, like we talked, like the difficulty of working from home. It's also just like it's completely taking over all of our minds.
It's like a rain day Friday in school.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a Nintendo of America employee who tested positive for it. So it's happening everywhere. People are buying Ring Fit Adventure like crazy because of this, because they're stuck at home. It's been reported as sold out everywhere.
David won't let me borrow his Ring Fit Adventure.
That's true. Matt asked me, it was this morning, right? You're like, yo, can I get on that Ring Fit? And I was like, no, dude, I'm playing Ring Fit Adventure all the time now, honestly.
We're all stuck at home.
I was going to say, you're looking a bit more more ring fit.
That's not true, but I appreciate it.
But game sales are going up everywhere, though. Like Steam broke records this past week.
Yeah. This is the time to play video games.
Or have a video game out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Or release, unlike releasing a theatrical movie or a play or something. This is the time to put out a video game.
I think like the industries that are booming right now are like streaming platforms and like digital distribution for like movie and TV show content, video games, and then like the delivery industry.
That's killing.
And doomsday prepping.
And doomsday prepping.
But really quick, how quick was it for Hollywood to like totally backwalk their like anti-Netflix streaming policy?
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? You could have an Invisible Man and all these other things like right now.
That's
you
true.
can just totally download them.
That's true.
It's like they completely gave up on the theater like support right away.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what of those kind of things stick around.
Right.
That's a really interesting point.
Can you put it back in the box?
Yeah. I think the world, to a certain extent, has changed at this point. Like, it'll be interesting to see what goes back to normal, if there even is a normal to go back to.
Distribution-wise,
Yeah, distribution-wise, exactly.
But also, Pokemon Go made some modifications in light of the coronavirus, so you can catch all the Pokemon in your house now. I guess they've changed it to make it easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go out. Even the game that used to inspire you to go
It's
outside.
the real victim.
Now it inspires you to stay inside.
Yeah. Remember like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whenever Pokemon Go came out and everybody was just pooling in public places together?
I'll never forget that summer.
Yep.
Those were the days, man.
It's like the Sandlot getting all reminiscent.
Well,
Hey, let's make that movie, David.
What, the Pokemon Go
The
version of Sandlot?
Summer of Pokemon Go.
2015 or 16.
Go Summer is what we'll call
Times
it.
are different then.
Yeah.
Well, has it affected any of you directly? So we were showing off our new game, which I'll talk about here, our VR game Totally Baseball, which is now in early access on Steam and Oculus. We got invited to the official South by Arcade to show it off, which is huge because usually those booths are super expensive. And it was actually those booths are what got us our start in like 2016. We had Vives before consumers could buy them, and we had a little like demo of a game. And then like what happened is we were shown it off at a few unofficial parties, and then someone who had a really big booth, like a $2,000 booth, bailed on South by last minute, and they said, hey, you can have the booth if you can pay for the power, which is like $80 or something.
Yeah.
And they said, you can have the whole booth, just show up with your VR because it was so new then. And then we went. like a couple things led to another thing. We ended up signing like some contract for like a 10 at the time, you know, it was like just like kind of a game jam game, but we got like 10K for this one arcade to kind of like use a version of it, like a white label version of it. And it kind of helped us kind of start the company. But so that was kind of a big punch in the face, like it going away. We couldn't really publicly say, like, we couldn't promote it before because everyone was so freaked out about the coronavirus that us posting like, hey, come by our booth, everyone would be like, fuck you. Like everyone was so anti anything about it. So we had to stay mum on it the whole time until they pulled the whole event. But honestly, like now publicly, I can say I was, you know, stressing out. I'm obviously I'm glad that we're not doing it, but you know, the idea of us just kind of grinning and bearing it and setting up like a bunch of headsets and controllers, swapping them from people over and over again. It was literally the worst situation for that.
For sure. I mean, that's like with E3, right? It's like people from all over, not just the country, but the world coming in, all touching the same shit, you know, all in one cramped space. Like but it sucks. It's like, it's a lot of these people's fucking livelihoods. You know what I mean? People losing their jobs, people losing like the very precious bit of exposure that you take what you can get in this industry when there's such an influx of content, everybody's constantly putting stuff out. Any opportunity you have to get your shit out there, it's so hard to like say goodbye to that.
And that extends to filmmakers too, because David and I know each other from the filmmaker days.
That's right.
And he used to come on my film show and show off his events, and so we know that whole world. And so it's such a bummer for these people that have spent like a year making an album, a year making a film, a year making a game, pulling all this money together, and then they finally got the, like, you know, the golden ticket to say, hey, South by wants to show off your shit. And then it just went away. And like
overnight.
You can't pay for that kind of PR firm kind of coverage, you know? And so it's just a bummer all around.
I mean, this though brings us back, I think, to what we were talking about, is like alternative means of distribution and exposure and stuff like that. You were talking about Protexter making that list of like locally made content that people can do. I mean, obviously that's starting up. It doesn't have the clout of like an E3 or a South by Southwest, but it's like, I think that what this is going to expose is a more like, it's going to create like better avenues for this kind of content to reach the masses from a more grassroots level. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing you can hope for. I think that's hoping, that's what should happen in an internet age anyway, and not have, you know, just your very few avenues taking up all the internet space. So it's like, hopefully we see something kind of grow out of this in the future.
Right.
Yeah. Arts industries are going to suffer. There's, you know, anybody with thin margins.
It's totally. All these month to month, like freelancers and designers and artists. It's like, it's going to be real, real tough.
Yeah. Well, Godspeed to all you out there. If you're listening to this, seriously, keep your head up. You know what I mean? Like, this will be over at some point. The world might be a little bit different, but like, people will gather in groups of more than 10 again in the future. You just got to believe.
So then moving on, just a couple quick things. Platinum Games has been doing this 4 thing. They put out their 3rd one, which wasn't a game, which was, it was just that they're opening a Tokyo office. So that was a interesting thing. And they kind of have a big thing on their website. If that interests you, you can read about it. Just wanted to mention that. But then David, this next one's for you. Spelunky 2 got an update.
It certainly did.
PlayStation announced it. So, y'all.
I mean, there was nothing on there that's saying it was PlayStation exclusive.
No.
So if you're a Nintendo fan of Spelunky, you know, maybe it's not the end of the world, but it's not looking too great.
No, it's not.
We'll see. I was really hoping, I'm always hoping anytime they do like an indie presentation, and we'll get to the indie world showcase here in a second, but you know, I'm always hoping Spelunky 2 or Derek, you will get some love. Didn't seem to be the case this time, but you know, I think when we started this podcast, we heard rumors about it potentially coming to Switch.
Yeah, but
we'll see. Either way, I'm going to be getting the game. Like, this is a game that like I'll buy on multiple platforms. I don't give a shit. I like to support these kinds of creators. So it's like, I'm very excited. And for what the PlayStation blog showed off of Spelunky 2, it's looking incredible. Like, because I played a demo build a couple months ago at Fantastic Arcade at the retrospective that they did. And man, that game is so fun, but it just looks already so much better than it was in that state. So I can't wait for the game regardless.
And then PlayStation, while we're talking about them, they've said that the day that this podcast is going to come out, so if you're out there, you probably know about this already, that they're going over some of the specs for PlayStation 5.
Wow.
So they finally are putting it out there.
Yeah.
And also,
this comes on the heels of Xbox doing a big like peek inside the
Xbox just did that too. And since I mean, if there's anything y'all want to talk about this, you're excited about, we can about either of those things.
You're talking about the Xbox PC tower?
The Xbox One Series X that looks like a green PC. A glowing.
Well, really though, I watched Digital Foundry's video on it, and they summed it up best. It doesn't really look like a PC tower. It looks like two GameCubes stacked on top of each other, which is really, it's pretty much the exact size of two GameCubes.
So they're gearing up for their battle, I guess, for the hearts and minds of consumers. And then there's been this really interesting rumor leak about Sony trying to buy the rights to a bunch of Konami IP. Did you guys see about this?
I did see that.
So and there was actually a tweet that Kojima put out, which was a very cryptic hint at Silent Hill that they're working on it. And that's what this rumor says, that Sony has obtained the rights to that and they're working with Kojima on that, and that they're trying to get Castlevania and Metal Gear rights.
Well,
that's nuts.
So what do you guys think? Because I saw some people kind of conflicted about this on the internet. They were talking about what if we brought Kojima back to work on Metal Gear Solid games? Wouldn't that be awesome? And everyone's like, a lot of other people were saying, he's doing bigger, better things now. Let him,
like Silent Hill.
He's done enough Metal Gear. I think we can let him go.
I think that just having that IP back in development is what's exciting. Not who's. I mean, and maybe having Sony behind it with whoever they put on it. But I whoever they put on it, I don't care.
I think that I don't think Sony's gonna buy Castlevania and Silent Hill and Metal Gear. Konami doesn't really make games anymore, but they're still using those IPs for gambling, pachinko machines, all the different kinds of stuff.
All that stuff.
Yeah, and they're still making money off of re-releases and stuff like that. So I don't think they're going to just
totally
give these away, but
IP.
I don't think that they're that interested in making new games in these franchises.
No, not at all.
So I think kind of lending the rights to Sony to put the stuff out makes a ton of sense, and I think that's probably something they would do.
And that's a big gun to pull out in this battle between them and Microsoft.
Beloved old franchises.
They put out a super badass Castlevania game.
I mean, Norman Reedus recently posted that he was meeting up with Kojima about something, and he was in the Silent Hills PT demo.
Yeah, right.
So
you know what I mean? And so I think there's a lot of speculation that Sony is bankrolling PT basically to actually come back and be the Silent Hills game that was originally.
Yeah, we're back into the era of almost everything will be console exclusives. It feels like in the next generation.
Yeah. And you think so?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. With huge names. Maybe that's what Sony wants to do is they want to get the exclusive rights to Castlevania or Metal Gear, these big games that'll sell systems.
And then a year later, they'll put them on PC and people will get really pissed.
Right, exactly.
It goes both ways because you've been seeing with the GTAs used to be PlayStation only, right? And then when GTA 5, it came out on everyone at the same time. So, and then the whole Fortnite thing where PlayStation was oh, Fortnite can't play with other consoles, but Microsoft and Nintendo were look at us, we're best friends. And you're but all the contrarians were saying, well, you can be best friends because you're not number one.
Right.
PlayStation's number one. They don't need to play with you.
I do think you're onto something there because I think that PlayStation's pretty scared shitless that they won't be this generation.
Yeah.
And I think that Xbox and Microsoft have been doing a really great job of getting ahead of PlayStation on everything so far. You know what I mean? Showing off their stuff at the Game Awards.
Buying studios.
Buying a ton of studios. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I guess you're right.
Yeah, that's
Matt,
what I'm saying.
that's
what Sony is trying to do.
I think these tiered releases are from a marketing point of view, pretty genius, but as from a gamer, they're pretty annoying. So I remember buying GTA 5 on 360. When it came out, it was one of the last games on 360.
Yeah, I got it on that too.
And then you're a year or however long later, they're oh, get it now on these newer consoles.
And it looks better.
With first person mode only on these new consoles.
Yeah.
So then you're and then now as someone who has a bunch of PCs, anytime they're oh, Final Fantasy is now on PC or Red Dead's now on PC, I'm yeah, no, it's a year later, 6 months later, I'm going to fucking buy it because I want to see it at 60 frames. So it's those tiered releases is it's almost more genius.
Yeah, it is. Because it's you want to be part of the cultural zeitgeist when Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out, play it along with your friends and stuff like that. Especially when you're in quarantine, you got to have something to talk about. You know what I mean?
Well, moving on, in terms of more leaks and rumors, they've been one's about an indie presentation happening from Nintendo and a Nintendo Direct. We'd actually heard about this leak of the indie presentation a month ago, as you may recall, Sabi said this on Twitter, one of the Nintendo leakers who has now been silenced. But it happened. It happened today. So everybody thinks that maybe a Nintendo Direct will happen on the week of the 20th.
Yeah. The rumors have been that there would be an indie showcase this week with a Direct next week. We'll obviously see if that shakes out. We'll be able to tell you next week if that's going to be the case.
I'll believe it when I see it at this point.
Yeah. I mean, this still, though, that having been said, obviously take all this with a massive grain of salt because we all thought we'd have a general Direct by this point. But all that having been said, like, this is the best, the best sounding leak that we've had so far. And I kind of think that it actually might happen.
It's like it's really weird because of the coronavirus. It's like, I feel like it might be hard to announce hard dates, but at the same time, like, happy news is a welcome thing, hearing about new fun games. That sounds great. So then let's talk about the Indie World presentation that happened today, the day we're recording this, March 17th, noon Central Time. Nintendo is going with Indie World as their Indies name now.
Yeah, I guess rip Nindies, right?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no more Nindies.
Yeah.
So Indie World happened. Honestly, for me, there wasn't a ton of like amazing games. They all look okay. And I'm sure that there are some that I want to look more into. Were there any really, obviously, like the big thing they ended on was Exit the Gungeon. That was sort of their big thing. Which is available today, and it's a timed console exclusive for the Switch.
That was something we saw a lot of at this Indies presentation.
Yeah, that's true.
Like almost every game seemed like it was a timed exclusive for Nintendo.
They opened with like 6 or 7, maybe more timed exclusives, and then they had 1 or 2 more in there, and then they ended with it too. So
yeah, Exit the Gungeon is definitely one of the best looking games from this list. Personally, like one of the ones that really spoke to me. I thought that looked great. I thought Baldo looked incredible. We've seen Baldo before. And in fact, in this trailer, it was a lot of stuff that we'd seen in previous trailers, which was a little disappointing. But I mean, for an indie studio making a game that looks very
like
similar
anime,
to like Ni no Kuni in a way, it's like, but with a very different kind of gameplay feel. Like it's more action based than like the turn based style of Ni no Kuni. That game looks incredible.
I'm excited for a couple games. I'm excited for I Am Dead.
Yeah, that looked interesting.
I don't really know what that game is quite yet.
You're dead. You're dead.
Well, I got that.
Most importantly, and I think, investigate people's rooms and you investigate into their stuff. So it had like the camera going into a gym bag, and then you go into the bags inside of the gym bag, and you get to see the contents.
It hinted at some broader mystery or some that involved the town or whatever.
Yeah, it feels like maybe a point and click adventure with some puzzle elements. I'm not really sure what it was, but it piques my interest.
Visually, it reminded me of like a 3D Night in the Woods style.
I can see that.
The way, like the kind of like like small town kind of streets and stuff like that. Really reminded me of that game. But
I'm also interested in Bark.
That side-scrolling shoot 'em up.
Yeah, just like it's so cool that new gamers get to play arcade-style games like shoot 'em ups, and Bark is a very family-friendly. It's very
party
cute.
game-esque. They said a couple times.
Yeah, it just looks really fun, and a new generation of gamers get to experience this genre that's presentable to them. I think that's awesome.
The game, another game that really stood out to me, and it's one that I'd seen before on different platforms. I think this has been on early access for a while, or it's been talked about for PC, is Superliminal. They showed it in the sizzle reel at the end, but it's like a first person kind of like almost Portal-esque puzzle game where it's all about like perspective and stuff like that. So you'll have an item and you bring it up close to you, and then you like set it down. And then because it's really close to your face, now in like the 3D space, it's just massive. Mm-hmm. So it's playing a lot with like perspective and like kind of weird, like visual tricks and stuff like that to kind of do its puzzles. And I thought that game looked really cool.
For me, Hello Games, people from No Man's Sky, The Last Campfire looked interesting.
I saw that reveal trailer. I really liked like the kind of indie kind of like an indie film vibe that it had going on to it.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like Tunic in a way too, but
a little bit.
But
same like perspective anyway.
And sort of the graphics and color palette.
It's been interesting to see Hello Games' slow redemption.
Yeah.
Like,
people like them again.
Yeah.
And there's always you're right, because they used to be like the pariahs when they came out.
Exactly.
But I mean, I don't. I can't really say it's their. I mean, that was a tough spot that they were in when they came.
They
out.
were
as an
pushed.
indie studio,
Yeah.
and then promising such big promises.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point they've come through with those promises.
I think with
it's just like years after the game
Yeah.
came
with
out.
updates
Yeah.
in VR and constantly, I think that they were losing sleep. I think they were like, we need to get the game to where we always said it would be.
Yeah.
That's cool that they did that and didn't just fold.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
true.
Right.
True. They stuck with it.
Kudos to
And
them.
they just added bobbleheads to your spaceships.
Sold.
I'm just saying, they're winning right now.
So is there anything else on the Indie World presentation you guys want to talk about?
No, I thought it went really well. The one thing I'll say to close it out is I really liked that they put the developers front and center in this presentation.
Yeah, there's a lot of talking heads from the developers. It was cool to hear, and from all over the world too.
From all over the world.
They did a really good.
That was nice. All speaking their like natural languages with
Right.
subtitles.
I love that.
It's great.
Subtitles. Give us subtitles.
We know how to read.
I think.
Yeah, Parasite just won, so
Yeah, right.
Also, in terms of leaks, it sounds like there was just a leak that happened on Amazon Mexico. Take this one for us.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. A new leak for all my weeb friends out there. My Xenoheads, Xenoblade Chronicles. I can't think of the whole name right
Definitive
now.
Edition.
Definitive Edition.
Very good.
Maybe May 29th.
May 29th. That lines up with all the other stuff we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been hearing May also lines up with a potential direct next week. You know, we
They
did
gotta
see a lot of
announce
street
that
dates.
soon.
A lot of street dates leak out before directs. So hopefully that is the harbinger of news to come.
And then real quickly, a couple things. Nintendo, there's some of the lawsuits we've talked about. The Joy-Con drift lawsuit, they made a motion to dismiss it. This is the class action lawsuit,
Right.
And that was denied or rejected, but but they did determine it's going to go to arbitration, so that means it's going to be outside the courts. So that's probably a win for Nintendo.
We'll see. I mean, even if
there won't be public records for us to go through.
Right. But like, so even if this class action lawsuit goes through, like it takes so long for any of those to ever pay off.
We'll
like,
get our $1 in 10 years.
Yeah, we'll get like another pair of Joy-Cons like long after the Switch is dead.
And then they also got a bunch of stuff thrown out in their patent dispute with Game Vice, who was saying that they had a patent for a Switch-like thing before the Switch came along. So a couple quick updates there. And then also the Nintendo Lego crossover trailer got announced. We were kind of speculating about that last week.
Yeah, you're what's that called? A AFOL?
Yeah, AFOL.
Yeah, an adult fan of Lego.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm really into Lego, and this was kind of disappointing because it's interesting, and so they announced this, and it's like a bigger than regular minifigure Mario that has a digital display and interacts with the other Lego elements to like you can kind of build your own Lego or your own level, and then collect coins and beat Bowser Jr. I don't know.
It looked really weird.
It's going to be really expensive for the amount of pieces you get.
That's true. In the trailer, it was like this is multiple sets.
Yeah, that was
put
like probably
together.
like at least 4 sets.
Yeah,
and like man, so it's going to be expensive. But I did show it to my 5-year-old son, and he was like, "I want it."
that's the target audience.
But also, he
for
wants
sure.
everything. So it's like anything looks good to him. It's whether he would actually stick with it and play it. I
Yeah.
don't know, man. It's got like that playability, but I was really hoping for a more like fucking like Peach's Castle, like, you know what I mean? Like where you could build something cool.
My question is, because I saw it, it's like, it seems like the goal is to get to the flag at the end.
Right.
Why wouldn't you just pick them up and put them at the flag? That's my
David.
question. I mean, come on. It's easy.
David, it's about the journey.
I can't be the only person that has thought of this, though, Matt. Come on.
No, you're not.
Seems like a glaring hole in their design philosophies.
Well, we'll see. I'll reserve full judgment till it comes out, and I'll probably buy it. Okay. So with that, that's our news for the week. We'll take a real quick break, and
Yeah,
then
we're going to social distance for a while, and we'll be right back.
we'll talk with JJ about VR. And we are back with our main topic of the day, which is VR, virtual reality, the state of VR. VR's been around for a long time, actually. I think it started in like the 50s or 60s, or the beginnings of
definitely
it.
different iterations of it for sure.
And then there was like a brief period in like the 70s, 80s where it looked like it might be the next big thing.
Right.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of been in the background. And then recently, with it's just kind of it's like emerged again with PlayStation VR and Oculus,
really,
all these things that have kind of pushed it to the forefront.
Yeah. And I feel like we'd be remiss to say like Disney had their old VR
Aladdin.
experiment.
They have their oh my god,
like
dude.
Disney Quest.
The Disney Quest stuff is really like Disney's always ahead of the game as far as their tech and stuff. I actually got really teary eyed when I went 2-3 years ago with my girlfriend. She had just given her dad a kidney, and like her parents were like, "Oh, you whatever you want to do," and she's like a big Disney head. So we went out to Disney in Florida, and she was like, "I want to take you to buy the Walt Museum," and I was like, "Snore, like whatever, let's do it." But then like I got super emotional looking at the multi-plane machine, the multi-plane camera rig, where it's like they would have like 3 different planes of animation. So you'd have you'd have like the tree, which is right in front, and then some clouds, and then the barn, and then they would have all the planes move while the camera moved, and it would just be this like kind of death going on.
Cool.
And it was super awesome. And I was looking at it going like, wow, man, they like this was the birthdays of animation. They were just figuring out these techniques. And it made me realize like, because I started in 2015 when the DK2 was out.
Sure.
And like, you know, we were all trying to figure out what can you do with cameras? What can you do with locomotions? What can you do with these? And we're all just figuring it out. And so I realized like, that's where we're at right now. Like at the multi-plane machine, like we're still figuring out the techniques and the approaches. And it was like kind of, it was like a little holy moment for me.
Well, on that note, then, VR has kind of come into the limelight right now. And the question is, you know, what's the future of it like? But let's hear what do you tell us more about your company and what you do?
I just want to say a lot of the reason that we wanted to do this podcast in the first place, or this episode this week.
Absolutely. That's a great call.
Next week is going to be the release of like what a lot of people are already heralding as like VR's killer app.
Half-Life Alyx.
Half-Life Alyx, which has the advantage of being a Half-Life game.
Right.
And like a very long awaited new addition to this franchise.
And B, being a Valve game.
Right.
They haven't made games for so long.
And their games are so good. The last game they made, I mean, technically kind of, it would be like the Lab. Which was
for Valve Index.
Which was just like a little demo to show off what the HTC Vive could do at the time, and it's still one of the most amazing like experiences. And kind of like wrote the law on what you could do. And then they gave out the assets to show how they were doing their bow and arrow. And then the next month there were like so many fucking bow and arrow games like for sale. But yeah, so a little bit about me. My name's JJ Castillo. I'm the founder of You Already. We've been around since I want to say 2016. Dave and I go way back because we were coming from that filmmaker world. So in my 20s, I was directing, producing music videos, doing my own little indies. At some point, I ended up getting hired at Rooster Teeth, being a producer director, and I was there for about 3 years. And so I've always just kind of like, you know, I did like a semester of college, and then I just moved to Austin and started working at Kirby Lane like in 2003 and stuff, and just started meeting bands and being like, hey, I'll do your music video.
Oh, nice.
And then at a certain point, I started getting a lot of offers for music videos, and the budget started getting bigger, and I had the ability to start telling people like, no, I'm not going to do your video. Like, I'll do, like, you know, like I'm only doing 3 videos this year.
I hit a point with that with comedy videos as well.
Right. But and then for me, I remember like the first time I didn't feel like just like a waiter that did music videos on the side was I had a music video for this band Lomita, and I submitted to South by, and it got in. And I remember thinking like, I didn't know anyone at the festival. No one's doing me a favor. They just like the work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how, and that was my moment where I was like, I guess I really am a real filmmaker. You know, I must have been around 23, 24. I'm 30. I'm about to be 36 this weekend. So it's been in Austin for a while, but it's interesting how I got from a filmmaker, like a kind of old style, like I didn't even like green screens, like I like sets and dollies and lights. Like I like that life,
practical effects
set.
and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And then so how that guy somehow ended up becoming like super tech. Like now we're scanning people, we're rigging models, we're doing lots of stuff with Kinects and Azures. And we got invited by SIGGRAPH this year to show off our Magic Leap prototype in LA. And SIGGRAPH's been around since like the 70s.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about that is everyone who came to our booth, like they just weren't like some like randos from South by. Like everyone that came to our booth was like from Square Enix or PlayStation or Facebook or like wherever. So you got to meet these guys and they were really impressed with what we were doing. But so for me, I guess it all boiled down to I saw 360 videos in like 2015 and stuff, and I could wrap my head around that. I couldn't wrap my head around development because I wasn't a coder. You know, I was a content creator, I was a producer, I was a director. I liked making things. But so for me as a filmmaker, I was like, I know how to do videos, and I can take some of these tricks from old style filmmaking and put them in VR. Like I can wrap my head around that. And then so I started doing all these 360 renders. I left Rooster Teeth to like kind of concentrate on this full time. And I got invited to Oculus Connect by them. Like there was this website, it's not around anymore. It's called like Video or something. And you would just upload 360 videos. And I was just making all these renders in Blender using free assets and stuff, like little Deadpool, like chibi characters fighting each other. It's like, and I was doing it all by myself.
That's content, baby.
But I'd never like done like animation or anything, like FBXs and stuff were like still new to me. So I was kind of like learning the ropes, but I put that on the internet on this video website and was like, there would be times where I'd be like lit off on my Severance on my boxers at my house and I'd be like, I'm changing the world. And then there'd be times where I was like, what am I really doing? Am I just spinning my wheels? Is this ever going to lead to anything?
Yeah.
And then so when Oculus reached out via email, they just a cold email. They go, hey, we saw some of your stuff on video, really cool stuff. We'd love for you to come to our event. And then I realized like, man, the pool of creators is so shallow in 2015 right now.
It was like the Wild West.
Right, it was. It still very much is. But at that time, it was so small. And for me, like everyone was just like, why would you throw away like this career in filmmaking? Like everyone knows you at festivals. Everyone knows you in this world. Like you have some clout. Like why would you just throw all that away? And to me, it was a combination of two things. Is one that I was getting older now. I was just hitting 30 at the time. And when I was in my 20s, I was like underbidding older guys in studios because I had like a MacBook and like an HVX 200 and I could like do some cool projects for cheaper. And now as I was getting older, I was working at the big studios. I saw my life going into like, as I got older, like competing against young kids with iPhones and MacBooks, where like all these plugins are so much easier to do now than when we were growing up. So, and I just saw like, man, life's either going to get real hard for me. So I saw VR as this kind of like this black like lake of void where I was like, no one knows how deep it is. No one knows what's in there, but like, let's just jump in because there's not a lot of us. And then so like that really paid off. And then also like the romanticism of like, I never thought I'd be alive during the birth of a medium, right? That they all existed. So we all like romanticize like the first days of radio, TV, film, and Billy Wilder,
the Lumiere brothers, and all that. Kind of
Lumiere
stuff.
brothers, all that stuff. But even like in the Kubrick times, and Kubrick was like a photographer for like Shoot magazine, right?
Yeah.
He never made a movie. He like got money from his dad and made like his own little indie. And next thing you know, he was working with Kirk Douglas and doing all these crazy things and became Stanley Kubrick. But there weren't like film courses or anything. People were just kind of elbowing their way in. So I saw that with VR. It was like, well, no one can really teach us right now because no one really knows how to do it. So like, this is a good time to kind of elbow your way in. So I went to Oculus with all my 360 pre-rendered content. I was like, oh man, I'm going to blow everyone's hair back. And then it was just like a bunch of developers and people making actual interactive experiences. And no one gave a shit about my pre-rendered 360 videos. And really quickly, I saw the glass ceiling on 360 videos. It was like,
sure.
That first year, it was so cool to be like, let me show you this video. And like, you can look around. That's amazing. But
well, that's even the times when I was at South by and I was going through and checking out the VR experiences. It's like, and VR was still young at this point. It was just starting out. But even at that time, you could see like where the limitations were with video, right? And it's like, and I totally get that from a filmmaker perspective because you want to be able to control stuff. And especially when you've got this new like medium that gives agency to a viewer. It's like a 360 video is like a movie with a modicum of agency, right?
Right.
And then you see that and you're like, how can I take this to the next level? And you're like, you can't really do that with something that you filmed. Like you have to like build that out in a 3D environment.
And a lot of problems you see with filmmakers and even game devs now is you see a lot of people that want to rely on the old tools and the old lessons, and they want to apply them to this new medium, and they just don't work, or they don't work well. And it's like, so when, like I always say, like when Scorsese shows you some footsteps going up the stairs, like a tight shot, he wants you to look at these shoes going upstairs. But if you do that same shot in 360 video, the person has the ability to look around,
or like stare at one bird.
So you get really creative with audio cues or little visual things to get people to look at certain things, but you have to throw everything you know away and start anew. And that's one of the big problems you see a lot of game dev now is that you have like these hardware companies and they're like really impressed by these indie like things that are being made in basements and by friends at game jams and stuff. But to them, it makes more sense to give millions of dollars to Rovio or Insomniac Games or someone who's never like Insomniac's done pretty well in immersive, but like they'll throw a bunch of money at a studio that's never done anything immersive, and then the studio will cash that check, put like 5 to 10 guys on it.
Right.
And then you'll play it and go like, this is breaking all the rules of VR. This is awful, but it just has like a fancy name on it. So that's definitely one of the big problems.
I think it's interesting that you say, VR, this new field. In some ways, video games themselves are still kind of figuring out some things, you know what I mean? So I think it's really fascinating to think about that because like VR is based on video games in a lot of ways, though there's some applications outside of it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But like that, it's like a Brave New World within a Brave New World or something. You know what I mean? Like we haven't figured out everything because video games are relying on movie lingo and stuff that should be shed off a little bit in some ways.
Here's a great example of like the divide of like the thought process between game devs and like new creators and stuff. Like, so every now and then as a filmmaker, you have someone who comes in and they're like, I've never made a movie before. And all the filmmaker communities are like laughing like, oh no, this guy thinks he's going to make a movie. And like, he's never made a movie before. And then he comes out and it does well at festivals and everyone in the festival circuit is like, have you seen this project? And you're like, there's something about the fact that he was kind of quarantined outside of this developer world that he was able to kind of come at it with fresh eyes and do something different. So for instance, like in our baseball game, we showed up to this distribution company out of Europe and they were super interested at one point in partnering with us. And so when you run to base, you have to hold down the grips and do arm swinger motion to actually propel you forward. And then to make sure you don't get sick, we give you a little ring, it's kind of like a vignette ring when you're actually locomoting. So that way you don't see everything in your foreground moving and it keeps you a little bit more.
Keeps you focused.
Right. But also the direction of where you're running is based on where your controllers are pointing. So you have the ability to run to first base, but look to left field to see if anyone's going to catch your ball while still propelling to first base, right? So when we showed this company out of Europe, they were like, oh, okay, you guys are definitely going to need to, before we work with you guys need to add like an indicator with an arrow that shows people where the ball is at all times. And it was weird because I thought you're thinking about that because you come from 2D games. And that's how 2D baseball games are. Because as a 2D baseball, if you're playing like MLB, you don't have a neck. You literally only have the camera behind the player, right? So you need that indicator arrow to show you that the ball's outside of your POV. But in VR, you have a neck. So you have the ability to literally look around like you would in real baseball. And when you're playing little league baseball, you don't have a ball indicator and stuff. So then it really becomes this kind of like, what are the future like developers that come from 2D games, they really like are used to like these arcadey, lots of graphics, lots of like numbers and readouts and stuff going on the screen. But like when you watch movies with sci-fi and stuff and you see someone like playing golf or playing baseball and then they get a conference call and then that whole world disappears. Like it's usually pretty natural. Like the
name of this episode is Super Switch Headz VR. You have a neck.
But so you get what I'm saying is so it's kind of that divide where people go like, oh, well, your game won't be ready until you have this. And you're like, it's almost like, you got to think differently. You got to throw all that stuff away.
Well, I kind of want to talk about maybe the current state of the VR. And I'd love to hear from you too, Matt, about like from a fan perspective, like how long have you're our resident VR game player. Like how
you got an index, man. So
when did you get into it? And and I'd love to hear also a little bit about like where it's come for both you from a from when you got into it to now, that kind of the change over time.
Yep. I will say I got into VR because another friend who has a VR machine was like, hey, you should play these games and have these experiences. So the first experience that I've had many VR experiences, but the one that sold me is Moss.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Moss?
Right. Moss, like the mouse, right?
Wasn't that still when it was a controller?
Yeah. Yeah.
Xbox controller.
Yeah. I played it on PSVR, PlayStation VR, and you play, it's like a platformer that you control a mouse in 3D space and you get to look around corners and figure out which way to platform. And it's like the type of tech that you see the future. You're like, man, if this is Moss, a brand new character, but man, I wonder what Nintendo could do with this type of medium, or I wonder what
those
Sony,
like kind of game designers, you mean?
Right. Yeah. I can like feel like the future is like so close playing this experience. And so there's a couple of really cool interactions that you have with Moss, the character. Is like when you beat a boss, like the character looks at you and waits for you to lean in to get close to him, and then kind of snickers at you. And he like puts out his little paw to give you a high five, and you give him a high five, and he's like, yeah.
It's the subtle moments.
It's the subtle moments that really like pay off the immersive experience.
No, that makes total sense.
The first time I tried VR was my friend had a DK1 of the Oculus development kit. And he showed me the Titans of Space, which is like still the main thing I'll show people for their first thing. But, and I thought that was cool. And I was like, man, this is really great. I get the idea. But the thing that actually made me like realize like that this is different than other things. I played a Half-Life 2 like VR mod, and like what I was just playing the very beginning of the game, and one of the Combine soldiers, and I was like, this is a real dude in front of me, essentially. And then also like, looking over the fucking, a ledge or something like that, and looking down your stomach, and you're like, oh, okay, my brain is totally tricked by this right now.
Right.
Like that's where, like, for me, that's where it first like clicked. You know what I mean? That's why I'm also excited for Half-Life Alyx, having done that.
From those first experiences to now, like, has it been pretty exponential?
I think there's not a lot. I mean, it's still baby times, but there's a good amount of studios that have had success in these early days of VR, and they want to tell a lot of people like that their game is wrong. Or that, like, in order to make a VR game, you need to follow this, this, and this. And that was a lot easier to control when the VR community was the VR community, the devs, and the gamers were the same people. So we were all in the same Reddits. We were all the same, like, we were all in the same echo chambers, and everyone was just saying, like, this works, this doesn't work. Okay, got it. Right. These locomotions are safe. Teleport's the only way to move around. Like room scale, like these are the ways we want to do it. So that was the next iteration, was like locomotions and room scale. Like once room scale became a thing, it was like, how do you make games in room scale that don't just feel like
you're in one tiny little
don't
space.
Just feel like escape rooms over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you actually do like a game like where you move around a world and a land, and how do you get that across? So you see a lot of people that are like, you should never move your VR player, like blah blah blah, and that worked. Like I said, when we had full control and it was only devs in it, when you go to the Reddits and it was like a bunch of smart people, but you know how Reddit gaming is like a shit show? Like in the comments, and it's just like a bunch of like, what do you call them? Like, armchair developers and stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone's such an expert. So you could kind of tell, like, the more and more VR started to take off by the more and more kind of idiots started showing up in the forums, like, saying they knew how to like fix VR and all that stuff. So it was good and bad. But the point of it being is that, like, so the VR dev community is very adamant on don't move your person around. These are the safe things to do if you don't want your person to be sick. That's why it's really important that we make these experiences so safe. So if anyone does VR for the first time, they're not scared away for forever. But then you have this whole other community. You have these like the gamers, the actual consumers.
Right.
They own VR. It's in their house. They know how the buttons work. They know how inventory systems work. They get it all, and they want it more and more. They want to push it. They keep talking about their VR sea legs.
It's totally like our difficulty episode, right? There needs to be a game for somebody who's never played VR, and then there needs to be the stuff that pushes the boundaries.
Right, but then like, so people that are like, yeah, there should be an easy mode. People are like, fuck that. No, you're like, what? If just don't play it. What does it matter?
Exactly.
Right. It's not for you then. But so with VR, I think, and the way we're doing this now, especially with our baseball games, like we have the locomotion that we think is the best experience. That's the default. And then, we have like a teleport locomotion, which is a B locomotion, and we're going to be releasing a smooth locomotion, which is a C. And that was pretty funny because that was actually asked for specifically by Oculus when we talked to them this week. And so it's funny to have someone who's like one of the hardware developers, one of the main guys, say like, hey, you should probably implement this locomotion that, most people say is bad, but all the gamers want. So the way I equate it is it's like organic and farm raised versus like Burger King. Right. So you have all these developers that are like, this is the best way to make VR games. This is the safest way. This is what you should be doing. And if you're not doing that, then your game sucks and you're like bringing down the whole VR industry on your own. And then you have the consumers that are just like, we want to run fast. We want to be like, we want to be pushed around. Like we want to like go to the limits. But then, like, you have something like Boneworks, right? Like, Boneworks is kind of like the precursor to Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, it's Stress Level Zero.
Stress Level Zero, the Node guys. And have you played it? Because it's great.
Yeah, it is great.
But it does break all the rules of VR.
Absolutely.
Because, like, essentially, and this is what I was telling my friends, my buddy Chris Wade about, I was saying, like, it's a Tomb Raider game. It's a PlayStation 2 Tomb Raider game, and they just want your body to make sense in the body of the avatar. So, like, you can make your character get on their tippy toes, you can make them crouch, all while you yourself aren't getting on your tippy toes or crouching, which is VR was the rules, is like in order to tippy toe, you tippy toe in real life, you crouch. But to let your guy do that, you're kind of like forcing your avatar into like these weird spots. But in the end, it's showing you all these different things that VR can be. And then my big kind of say all to these guys that say like, no, all these games are wrong, is like, do you really think right now in these early days of virtual reality that every game 10 to 20 years from now is going to be those games, those like you can't move around, like teleport only. Like, do you really think that's the cap?
Well, what it reminds me of is like we were talking about like the birth of different mediums, visual mediums.
The Lumiere
before.
days, yeah.
Yeah, it's like talking about like the early days of film.
They filmed plays.
Well, they would film plays and they were like, that's the way you have to do it.
And
right?
there were studios going around going, we film the best plays. We're the best at filming plays. If you're not filming plays like the way we film plays. So I tell people all the time is like, people like, we're still waiting for our Citizen Kanes. It's like, for our Birth of a Nations, you know?
In addition to that too, it's like the people that like first saw, like when we talked about the Lumiere brothers earlier, like the train coming into the station.
Right.
Like people
ran from the screen.
Yeah, they ran away from the screen. They were like, thought that a train was about to hit them. It's the same thing right now. It's like some people right now, like, are like, okay, well, I felt like a little bit queasy when I like moved around and my character didn't move or vice versa in this game. But that's also something that like you have to get used to as a society. You know what I mean? It's like, and unless people are making experiences that break the mold and don't just do those things, like people, you know, that'll just be the norm forever. And so it takes somebody breaking free of that, like with with Half-Life Alyx or the game you were just talking about.
With playing VR for a couple of years, like I want to be immersed as much as possible.
Right.
And part of that immersion is the risk of feeling sick or nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So like all of the visionettes that you put on, or like for Ultra Wings we're talking about, which is like a Pilot Wings type game.
Yeah.
They have shutters, so you can't see have a full field of view. I turn that off, and that does make me a little sick.
Right.
But
No, it's
because
a reason, yeah.
I want that feeling. I want that trick part. I want to be tricked to feel like I'm flying a plane.
If you're nosediving in a plane, you're probably going to feel your stomach lurch.
Right.
Anyway.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I don't know 100, like I agree, but I don't 100% agree on some of these topics. But like, I guess the key word here is accessibility, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, no matter how tall someone is, if they have the use of both of their hands, like Half-Life Alyx has come out on record and said you can totally play a Half-Life Alyx sitting down with one hand if you want to.
Yeah.
When, like that's fucking great. But of course, Valve would do it that well.
You got to cover your bases. Yeah,
Right. So, but like, you know, a lot of like the vignette thing, the first time I saw that was in Google Earth. When you move around, it gives you like a vignette tunnel. So we brought that into our game. So fucking hilarious though, because like we put the trailer on Reddit and everyone was like, oh, when's it coming to PSVR? When's it coming to Quest? Like blah, blah, blah. And one of the first comments was just like, this game looks dope. I'm not going to buy it unless you can turn that like comfort ring off though. Like, oh dude, you gotta let everyone in the Reddit chat know how big your balls are. Like, cause at that point, that's all it is. It's just people going like, my VR legs are better than your VR legs. I can play this game. I can play this game so much longer than you can.
What is the internet if not an enormous pissing contest?
It's a true thing though, because like I have played like Doom and other games that weren't made for VR that people have like ham jammed VR into. And it's that weird feeling after a few minutes. You're like, am I hungry? But I just ate. Like, what's up with my stomach? You know?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you kind of hinted at this, like, so like locomotion and nausea, feeling sick. Those are some things that VR is working on overcoming. And is, you know, a lot of it is about options. What are some of the other things, as somebody who makes it or somebody who plays it a lot, are some of the things that are, you know, VR is still kind of figuring out and are, or like, you know,
like what does
weaknesses.
it mean? What does VR need to push into the mainstream? Is that
like how? What are some of the weaknesses and what are ways it's being addressed?
Well,
you know,
right now, I mean, one of the biggest issues is that a lot of the coolest content is coming from indies, and so they don't have like necessarily the budgets or the staffs to like go super big. But at the same time, you kind of, if you are a VR company, like your best bet is to be like somewhere between 20 employees if you're trying to, especially if you're trying to live off a consumer title. If you've got like 100 employees, 70 employees, and you're trying to like live off a game that's, you know, selling for $30
and is niche,
then the market itself is niche. So even if you're killing it, you know, like the numbers aren't necessarily nowhere near as like big console numbers. So I mean that's definitely one of the big issues.
I mean, what do you think about like Sony or somebody? Because I mean, like I feel like out of the big console players, maybe other than Valve, but I mean, Valve's output is so low. But it's like Sony feels like one of the only console manufacturers now that is actually taking a risk on it. And like whenever you watch their presentations, they put so much forth to push their PlayStation VR. Like, what do you think about that?
Sony is important. It's not my favorite headset. It's the closest headset to a DK2 on a consumer level right now, because the camera system's not that great. I remember when I was going to my friends, I went to Alchemy Lab Studios years ago to test their Job Simulator port to PlayStation before it was out. And I remember I was playing it, and I got this feeling in my stomach, and it was like nostalgia. And I was like, why does this feel so familiar? And I was like, oh, DK2, like my stomach's getting weird because like my positional tracking's not great. So like that's what I felt. So PlayStation is not the best VR experience per se, but it is like, it's so important that it exists. It's a lot of people's first foray into VR.
Right.
And a lot of times
they're trying to push it forward.
And sometimes it's enough for them. Sometimes they're like, Beat Saber in this one game, that's all I need to do.
Right.
But other people are like, I need the best version of this. I need like the Lamborghini, which to me is like, an Index or a Vive with room scale tracking. But it's so hard to get normal gamers to consider building or buying a PC.
Yeah, well, that's my question.
That's the biggest issue. And so the idea to get people that have been playing on PlayStations and Xboxes their entire lives to buy a PC is so hard.
And $1,000 headset.
Right, and $1,000 headset, right. But go ahead.
I think my question would be then, because I feel like so for me, I have been hesitant to take the plunge on PC-based VR. Now, that having been said, the one VR headset I've bought, like consumer level past the DK2 I bought a long time ago, is the Quest. Wow. Because the Quest to me feels like the most futuristic form of VR at this point because of its untethered nature. I think like that to me feels like that's how you get it into the hands of normal people.
Yeah, my nephew has a Quest because I think it's accessible.
Yeah. It's a problem because it's underpowered and you can't do what the medium is capable of.
So with VR, you kind of you got to get creative with it. But if you look at like Switch games, if you look at the way Nintendo has never looked like photoreal. They always have a style, and people love them because the games are fun.
Yeah, it's all about game flavor.
And then like, oh my god, the super hot guys are so fucking smart by making everything like white and low poly, like no crazy textures. Like already, like the draw calls are like they're doing themselves a huge favor. But anyway, so like yes, I know the Quest is underpowered. It's more power than like when things were coming off of phones.
Sure,
and you're killing your phone battery and it's getting real hot and all this stuff. I definitely have all those. I definitely have all those kits too.
Yeah, but I did not enjoy gear experiences for that reason.
But the Quest itself is the closest thing to a Switch. People call it the VR Switch, right?
Right.
It's like it's $400. You don't need a computer. You can just get up and go. And like I'm constantly blown away by just how easy it is. Like the fact that like you can set up your player. I can make my square. This is my play area, right? And then I can walk out of my play area wearing the headset, and then the cameras will turn on.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, this is what your outside looks like. And as soon as you walk back in, like you go back into VR. I know so many creative agency guys that use that trick specifically to get clients.
Yeah.
They'll put the headset on outside of the circle and then be like, oh, come in this circle. And then the world will like come in.
Yeah.
And the client will be like, where do I sign a check? But like, so like just using like the hardware, like kind of standards itself. But the Quest it's great. It's like I said, it's $400, and then they just recently announced the Link, which we have a few of those, which you can you could just make it into a PC headset, and I'm surprised at how well it goes.
Yeah, so you've used that on your own computer?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we use them at the office because now that you can do that, you can also develop in it. And we're making a VR experience for a cannabis company out of Colorado, I think. And like they're like super medicinal about it. Like it's like very like part of the industry, but they make these big containers that like they can't bring to conventions. So our whole idea is to put it in VR, and we've been putting it on the Quest. And the great thing
need smell-o-vision for that.
That's what's going to sell it to the masses. Drugs.
Because I forget what they call it. Like, you can fit like 100 blah, blah, blahs of biomass. And I'm like, you mean weed? But no, I think the Quest is a godsend. It's crazy how like just polished it feels. But yeah, I think that once you can start buying them again, because right now, due to the coronavirus, like they're
very popular,
a lot of hardware comes out of China. So and I just had to buy I think 3 of them for this client off of eBay for like they're $400 each. I bought like 3 for $600.
Yeah,
and so I really had a high market up for me. But yeah, so that I think right now, where is the state of VR? I'd say high end VR is the Index. And I think it's interesting that Valve, is PC Master Race all the way. It's like, let's the guys that are building machines, like let's pander to them. Let's give them the best quality. And I think that's why, one of the guys, I won't name him, but one of the founders from Oculus, when he left last year,
we know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but he was saying that, but not even Palmer, it was someone else. It was like, he said that, someone said it wasn't official that when he left that his whole reasoning was like, I'm not interested in a race to the bottom or a race to like mediocre, because he had a Oculus headset version 2 that had like, you know, eye tracking and all these things, just like crazy peripherals. And then they were like, instead of that, we want to focus more on mobile. And I think a lot of us cried foul at the time being, but like Quest is great. And it's now even with the hand tracking is nuts. Like using the hand tracking to like, instead of using your controller.
Yeah, they just released that recently, right?
Right. Yeah. And so that's pretty great. The downside is for consumer, Quest is great. Not a lot of titles on there. As a developer, Quest is great. Really kind of hard.
And it's a closed system,
it's
too.
It's really hard.
You can't get anything on there.
Really, really hard to get your game on there. The only way, like you have to be like a Beat Saber or a Super Hot. You have to have all this like name recognition. Everyone already knows you're like a big popular draw. And then like if you're one of those, you get invited to the Quest like super easy. We're very lucky that just from our early access on our baseball game, last week we were reached out to see if we'd be interested in the Quest and making that happen. And I'm super happy that they reached out to us for the invite, because the other route is you have to make like a PowerPoint proposal. Seriously, like that's the route
for a VR game.
Yeah, and because their whole thing is like, don't make the game and waste a bunch of time. First, pitch us what you're trying to make.
Well, that's fair, but I just think the irony of here's a terrible technology.
Here's some clip art.
You actually go in a VR chat and you do the PowerPoint in VR chat.
But luckily for us, there's, like less than 15, maybe less than 20, like legit sport VR games. Actually, I'd say like less than 10. There's maybe like one. There's only like maybe like 4 or 5, maybe 6 now with us on Oculus Store.
Is that because of locomotion, do you think? Or just like how do you...
Because for sports?
Like we had the perspective
the reason we ended up making our game, so the birth of our game, to go back kind of like talk about how this game started and also kind of how I got into interactivity, was like I was newly 30 years old. I just come back from Oculus Connect 2 and I realized that like 360 content passive had a timer on it, right? And it was so funny because this was like 2016, and then I had a bunch of friends that had a bunch of VR studios like only doing 360 video that just like in 2019 2018 decided, oh, we need to do interactive. And I was like, man, I was ahead of you guys on that. But like, so I went to a game jam in UT. I was like 30 years old with a PC tower, showing up with PC towers, all these like college kids with laptops, and I was just like, I want to make VR. Like they had a Vive in the back. They weren't released yet, so like I met some guys. It was a small group of us. It was like my buddy Greg Tamargo, Foxy Kelly, Chris. Space on his name right now, but he ended up working at Unity. Fox ended up working at Alchemy, and then Greg ended up being my co-founder at my company. And we all had become like kind of big guys in the VR scene. But at the time, none of us had really done anything. It was like early times. But so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I love games, I've always wanted to be in games, or I don't even know how to start, is like, just go to a game jam. Like, no, like people won't make fun of you for what you can or can't do. They'll say like, oh, can you do sound? Can you help with art? Can you do whatever? But like, you start to learn the engine, you start to get really, really good at it. So one of the first things we made at the game jam was like, I had this idea of like, what if we made this game where we just give me a cylinder and a sphere and put colliders on them, and it's like baseball, right? Like, what if we just had like a field where you just break stuff with baseballs, just break a bunch of stuff with baseballs, and then so like we did that, put it on Steam, got like 90,000 downloads in a year.
Oh yeah!
And then so I made a fake version of a full version of baseball, like using animations in Unity, and I was just like showing, and I had like different cameras would cut to, and I showed my developers. I was like, one day I would love it if this thing existed, right? And then I was just waiting for people to make it, and then all the sports games that come out in VR, they're essentially mini games. Right.
Yeah,
the only baseball games
or experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
The only baseball games that exist are just home run derbies.
Right.
But like, that's it. And then there's some football games, but they don't let you like run back the kickoff. Like, it's little versions, little shades of that sport.
Right.
So I really wanted to figure out how could you make the full game of baseball into VR. And I sat kind of on the sidelines for a few years working on client projects, and I saw games like Climby. I saw games like Windlands. I saw all these other games and took little mechanics from here and there and was like, if you put this together, you can kind of, if you take a little cheat sheet from like Super Nintendo baseball mechanics, you could really make this work in VR. And so we spent a year making an AI system, because that's another issue a lot of VR developers do, is they make a game, they make the platform, they make it all, but then they're like, in order to work, you have to have like 10 other guys in VR. come play.
Right,
and you're like,
right.
well, the market's so niche. So for us, it was smarter to spend a year making a full, robust AI baseball system that could literally play the game between themselves.
Yeah.
And then release as a strong single player experience. So you don't need anyone. And then the goal to add multiplayer afterwards instead of going the other way with it. And that
For sure.
And that has worked out for us.
Well, I've like any of these topics we talk about, we could go on forever. I feel like we should probably wrap up soon. I mean, maybe some final thoughts about where we are, maybe where VR is going.
Yeah. I mean, also like whether or not Nintendo will ever fully take the plunge. I mean, like
Nintendo podcast. I guess we should briefly give that some lip service.
They've got the
they've got the Labo VR, which is
VR.
like the cheapest introduction to VR you can possibly do.
Right. The optics aren't great, but it's easy. It's an easier gamble for them to sell cardboard with like a low 1080 screen than it is to do the Virtual Boy again, which we have one in the office. It's like the Virtual Boy.
I mean, they were fucking trying to pave the way with that shit early on. It didn't work, obviously.
No.
I don't think the world was really ready at that point, and you had to like put it on a table, which
and it was only red and black,
Yeah.
and you couldn't swivel your head around.
Yeah. All of that to say, I think that they could and probably should, at least maybe not with this Switch because you got a 720 screen. It's not really the right form factor. Right. But if they keep this handheld system, like I think that they should move forward with a lot of VR experiences. And I think that them dipping their toes in with Labo is like I think that's an indicator of things that could possibly come.
You know, they have a crazy R&D department, and they've got to have some weird VR thing.
They're definitely doing. With it.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like they're the masters of working with cheap hardware. You know what I mean? Like everything they've ever released has always been underpowered compared to everybody else. It's always about like saving money and then hiring really creative people to then make the best out of that. You know what I mean? And so I think like that would be a great company to do. I would
say if like the Switch 2.0 or the new Switch update or whatever at some point they plan on releasing has a better resolution, then it's an easy thing. Then that's not a problem anymore. Because I think that's the only problem right now is they can
make thick ass pixel lines.
Right. They can make the screen work now, but it's just not a great clarity.
Yeah, I hear playing Breath of the Wild in VR is a nauseating experience to say the least.
Well, then how about like any other final thoughts about maybe where we're going or like what, we'll see with Half-Life Alyx if that'll pave the way.
I'm super curious about it. One of the Reddit comments I saw was there's the hanging plant guys, that like come out. And then so as soon as they come and grab you, if you get taken up, like it fades black and you die, right? And then this guy on Reddit was like, I just really wish they would like jerk you up in the air and like you can actually feel it. And everyone's like, yeah, it would be painful. He's like, yeah, no, but I could take it. I think
my VR
kick me in the balls.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. But with
Hurt me, mommy.
With that said, I'm all for as our game itself. We did a version with arms and a version with feet, and we decided it's easier just to have like floating hands and stuff, and it just looks better. And I remember
that's what they're doing in Alyx as well.
And Alyx got a lot of shit for it when it showed off that video trailer, and everyone was just like, "Oh, you're Valve. You can't even have like IK. You can't even have the arms like kind of accommodation." And it was actually my buddy Alex Schwartz, who used to be the founder of Alchemy, who Job Simulator and Rick and Morty and all that. He came out and talked about why it was such a good idea to have floating hands, and it's still smart because like your elbows and stuff are going to look wonky, and the wrists and stuff is going to look.
Because that's
wonky.
what Boneworks does, and it's really weird.
It looks really weird at times.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think Half-Life Alyx, I think it's going to be full of surprises. I think it's going to show people a lot of different kind of new mechanics, and essentially if they also do what they've done with all their other releases in the past and release the source 2 assets and the engines and stuff, and
you imagine they'd have to.
That's going to change so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely keeping my eye on that. That's going to be super super exciting.
Yeah. I'm just excited for like the future of VR as like what we don't even know about yet. Right. You know what I mean? Because we got all these people, pushing the boundaries, pushing what's possible. You've got big minds like fucking Carmack working at Oculus. You know what I mean? Like the people that have been like, you got people that are constantly innovating,
right?
And it's like I just want to know like what's going to happen next. What's going to get us to those sci-fi like Neil Stephenson novels and shit like that? Like what's it going to take for us to get there?
Yeah, Carmack left last year, but he's still there in spirit.
Yeah, I didn't know he left. Yeah,
kind of what I think about is like we're talking about the progression of VR, which is like 360 videos, and then for stationary experiences, then we're going to like a room scale,
right?
And then what if it's an entire building?
Yeah,
and like what's really interesting to me, because I love VR and the experience that it gives me, it was like, what if I'm in these VR experiences with other people in the same room?
I guess it is multiplayer.
And there's like multiplayer. And now there's these mixed mediums of like VR arcades where you're playing a lot of it's licensed stuff. So there's like a VR Ghostbusters game where you have these physical props. But you're
the Void? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, like the Void, all of that stuff. You have physical props and you're feeling like you're holding this gun in the VR world, and you can see your friends that are in the same room. And my mind is like, man, let's go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because that's the way that it feels like it's growing. So we mostly talked about the consumer level, but like, what could that be from
arcades?
Arcades.
I think that's going to be the new arcades.
A business perspective. Yeah, all of that stuff is like super fascinating. And
and we didn't even touch on non-gaming applications, which there could be lots of too.
Which there are a fuck ton of.
We've done a lot of those.
Yeah.
I do want to say, if you have a Steam account, I'm going to give a Steam key if you're the first one to put it in.
Nice.
Let's see. Here you go. This is for Totally Baseball. Only use it if you have a VR headset. Let's see here.
Yeah, don't just hoard
Don't just be a dick. So
like toilet paper.
The number is 09446BZ67GXQ4HZ. Have fun.
Hell
That's
yeah,
awesome.
dude.
Thank you.
That'll probably get taken within the first hour or so.
And find out more about the game. You go to viewready.com. Just check out Totally Baseball. It's on Steam and Oculus. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. And just, go to our website. We got a lot of weird augmented reality, Magic Leap, a lot of weird things we've done in VR. So please check it out.
Dude. And good luck. Good luck in this Wild West that's still coming through. Yeah.
We'll take a real quick break then and do our last segment of what games we've been playing recently. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. Well, and we're back. This is the part of the show where we talk about the games we've been playing recently. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
David.
I've been playing a lot recently, been self-isolating, so that leads to a lot of gaming. A lot of Murder by Numbers, been still playing that game. Still been playing Picross Lords of the Nazaric. What else? I've been beating some runs at Slay the Spire. I'm getting real good at Slay the Spire, y'all. Just so you know, if you guys ever want to play that game, it's not a multiplayer game, so you can't. Other than that, I've been picking up a couple old games that I had, kind of trying to go through the backlog before, Final Fantasy VII and Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal come out. I've been playing Marble It Up recently because I got a real knack to play some monkey ball style games. That game is super fun. If you guys ever played Marble It Up, I really enjoy that one. And then a game that came out it came out a long time ago, maybe even 10 years ago on PC. It's called Jamestown. Did you guys ever play this game? It's an indie game. It's a shoot 'em up, top down, vertical scrolling shoot 'em up game. But it's got this really great pixel aesthetic where it's set in the 1600s, kind of during the time when a lot of people were coming to the New World, right? But instead of being the New World of America, it's the New World of Mars. So you've got the lost city of Roanoke and Jamestown and John Smith and all these guys are characters in this weird Martian crossover shoot 'em up game. It's super fun, and you can play it with up to 4 people. And I think the thing that kind of sets this apart from a lot of other shoot 'em ups is that you've got a button that they call Vaunt in this game, and it basically builds. It's like a 2-in-1. It gives you a points multiplier whenever you press it, and then there's a little meter that goes down. But then it also gives you this little shield around yourself. So if you ever get overwhelmed with bullets, you can just press this button and just kind of blast right through them.
Oh, okay.
So for somebody who's not that good at bullet hell games or shoot 'em ups, it's a really great kind of introduction to that style of game. I was playing that with Sasha the other day, and she's definitely, she'd never even played a shoot 'em up before, and she was feeling really overwhelmed at first, but then as soon as she got that Vaunt mechanic down, she started really, really enjoying it. And it's fun whether you play with 1, 2, or 4 people, kind of scales with the number of people that you have. So nice. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Jamestown, check it out. It's Jamestown Plus is the kind of DLC added version that's on the Switch eShop. Then also last thing I'll say, Sasha has had some visitors from France staying at her place for the past week or so, and they're about to leave the country because the French President Emmanuel Macron is French people, please come home. We're about to shut our borders. So they're about to leave, and they really wanted to play some video games. So we actually played some Mario Party last night, and that's the first time I played Super Mario Party since it came out. I was playing your copy, Matt. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
you can edit that. You don't get to say that.
yeah, very good.
Yeah. I want to be a legit podcast, David.
Yeah. But I just forgot how fun that game is if everybody's drunk, and that's all I'll say. About that.
Yeah, it's great.
It was a very, very fun time. I don't think it's a great game, but it's fun enough if you've had a couple toasties in you.
I'll go real quickly then. I've been playing some Cities Skylines with my family. That's been all right. My son just wants to put train tracks everywhere.
You can.
Yeah, and we did. And I'm playing some.
Your town is a railroad town.
Yeah, it's like that goes nowhere.
This town is a railroad town.
Been playing some more Rayman Legends. We built some Labo stuff because we've had a lot of time on our hands.
Yeah.
We built the piano, and my son thinks that's hilarious.
Dude, the piano is the best Labo
Yeah.
thing, I think. Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of stuff. Fire Emblem, other stuff. I also fired up. Thanks, David, for your copy of What Remains of Edith
You don't
Finch.
have to say that. We're a legit podcast.
Hey, listen, we're just legit friends that like to share.
That's fair.
I think it's important in a time of quarantine for everybody to share their Netflix logins, their video games.
Y'all been talking this game up, so I'm still pretty early on into it, but it is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, you're also pretty far into it because it's a very short game.
There you go. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention again, I've been watching more Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet on Apple Plus. Holy shit. Episode 5 to this show is amazing. I don't want to spoil this for anybody, but it's a complete side story that has very, very little, nothing to do with the previous 4 episodes.
Right.
Completely different tone. I would multiple times during the show, I was watching with my wife. I'm like, are we watching the right show? She's like, well, it's about video games. I think it's fine. And I had to pause it and be like, no, we're watching the right show.
Yeah.
Love it.
I
That's
can't wait
awesome,
to watch
man.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll integrate in more later. It definitely had a little in-universe hints at previous things that had happened. It's
Right.
holy shit! That the show was fun and funny, but now I'm I highly recommend it.
Right. And
I
this
don't know
is
what'll happen next.
This is an Apple TV Plus show.
yeah, so you have to have Apple TV Plus. Share logins, everybody.
I'll go next, and I'll piggyback off that. I watched Castlevania. I've been season 2 and season 3.
Nice.
That's right, baby.
Episode 9 of season 3 blew my fucking mind. Oh my God. Season 3 of Castlevania is great, but episode 9 is just incredible. There's so much that happens. I'm like, holy shit.
It's a lot to take in. Yeah.
It was great. The games I've been playing, I finished The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners.
Nice.
That was
Was
great.
that a longer VR game? Because you talked about it a couple of weeks in a row, or
Well,
did you just play a
that's-
little bit?
That's
at a time?
because I can only play 2 hours at a time before I get sick. Because I played it on Saturday for 2.5 hours straight, and I'm like, oh, I feel nauseous, and I did not play for 2 days.
Well, that's all the haggling with survivors trying to get
Dude,
your
I
gear.
shot him every time. There's no consequences. Some guy wanted bandages, and I just stabbed him in the face. I don't know. It's a conversation for another day.
But you enjoyed it, having finished it now?
Yeah, I had a great time. I realized that there's a cheat code system that turns your hands into weapons. So that was fun. You just turn around horde mode and you just kill a bunch of zombies.
That's pretty cool.
It was great. I played Jackbox Party Pack 6. And I played it with some other friends that are practicing social distancing, where I got on Google Hangouts. I shared my screen from my Switch by having my Switch using a capture card. So we were able to play Jackbox on Google Hangout.
I was trying to figure
6
out how
people.
to do that recently. So you just have to have some sort of setup with your PC where it's
You need,
feeding
an
into the
Elgato.
PC.
It's like an
Yeah.
Elgato system.
That's what I
Yeah.
use. Yeah, I use an HT60S.
It's
Right.
like
Oh,
nice.
$60 or something.
Is that
Yeah.
is that internal? Is that like a card or is that like an external?
Oh, it's just like an external, USB.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
It was really cool. Took a little while to figure out how to get the audio to work, but it worked pretty flawlessly where everyone could see and we could see each other and hang out. And there's a game on there on Party Pack 6 called Push the Button, which is like a werewolf mafia secret Hitler kind of secret role kind of game.
Yeah.
And it's very quick and very short. It's less than 10 minutes and it's incredible. And I lost and my friend Brittany won and it's haunting me because I just want to win on those type of games. And I'm just like, It was really hard for me to sleep last night. It was great. JJ, how about you?
Yeah, as far as me, Switch titles, I spend so much time going. My go-to is Rocket League, and it's funny. I play Rocket League so much, and I think my girlfriend plays like a lot more. Like PlayStation and console games a lot more. A lot of times I'll buy them for her and just watch her play them because I'm just like working and stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you do games or you get the opportunity to work on games, a lot of times you don't get to really play games that much. But I like Rocket League because it's like I could play for 5 minutes or 50 minutes. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love those pick up and play experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of maybe why we did a sports game ourselves. Yeah. But so I love like Rocket League and Trials and all those old games. But like as far as like games on the Switch, I want to give a shout out to. I got a lot of friends that are making some really awesome sports or just games in general. So there's Sausage Sports Club.
That's a hard one to say.
Yeah, my buddy Chris Wade made that. He's from Chicago. He now lives in Austin. Works at Alchemy Labs, which is big VR company. Really, really cool game. Check that out. And then also check out Battle Sloths, which just moved over from PC to the Switch. And my buddy Philip Johnson from the Invisible Collective made that game. And I directed the commercial for it. And it was a lot of fun because we did it like a 1990s Nickelodeon commercial.
Hell yeah.
So like
that's coming back, that style,
dude,
man.
So it's so funny because like we shot a lot digital. We had some green screen effects with like sloth arms coming out of the TV that we shot in the studio later on. But we shot everything with digital and we put all these effects in them. The effects were beautiful. At the last minute, I just said, hey, do you guys mind if I literally run this through a VHS machine a couple of times and make all the effects look like shit and like but it really sells the trailer.
That's the way I've found to like, if you have a low budget and you want to do like green screen stuff, lean into it, make it look like crap because then it looks intentional.
Yeah, it got like 12,000 plays on Twitter during that first day.
That's awesome.
So like it blew up.
We say the name of that game again?
Battle Sloths.
Battle Sloths.
And Philip is such an awesome guy. We actually made the team that you play first in our baseball game, the Sloths. And,
nice.
and the pitcher is Flip Johnson, which is Philip Johnson.
Nice.
So we gave him a little bit of a shout out.
Very good. Well, awesome.
Yeah,
those sound like great games.
That about does it for our show. Then thanks so much,
Hey, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thanks,
Hell
JJ.
yeah, glad you had a
on the
good time,
show.
man.
I hope I can come back not looking like a bandit next time.
We'll see about that. Even if we're all safe, you should still come back in a fucking bandana and gloves.
Thanks to everybody out there for listening to the show. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Sorry to Chris McKeever, we didn't play Disney Tsum Tsum Festival.
Even though it's on sale right now.
It is on sale, but we'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, at some point. I think that does it. If you want to find us individually online, I'm PDYX.
I'm on Twitter, Matthew, MATHYOU.
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, JJ?
I am on Twitter at JJ Castillo VR.
And what's your website again?
That is viewerready.com, and then the game is Totally Baseball.
All right, check it
Nice.
out. If you haven't grabbed that code already, rewind, listen again, and grab that code.
That does it. So.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. If you want to find our show on social, we are Super Switch Headz on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. Please, if you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, what are you doing? We are just called Switch Headz in all caps on Facebook.
We know you're stuck in your house.
Yeah.
Just
Seriously, in an era of social distancing, like the Switch Headz Facebook group makes me feel so close to all y'all. It's right. I'm getting a little emotional here, but it's a very nice thing. It's a nice community to have. So please join us. We have a really fun time. And then Animal Crossing is coming out this upcoming week. We got the Animal Crossing channel on our Discord server, so please join that. We're going to be visiting each other's towns, painting each other's houses, putting furniture where they don't belong. It's going to be a lot of fun, folks. So make sure you join us for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We're going to be covering Animal Crossing for pretty much the entirety of next episode. I'm very, very excited about it, and hopefully we get a goddamn direct soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, please wash your hands, be safe, stay inside. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.